In the golden age of Hollywood, an era defined by timeless beauty and the relentless pursuit of youth, countless iconic stars faced the unforgiving reality of aging under the spotlight. What began as a desperate attempt to cling to the features that launched their careers often ended in tragedy, as primitive plastic surgery techniques, or later, excessive modern interventions, transformed expressive, distinctive faces into frozen, distorted, or utterly unrecognizable masks. These were not minor enhancements, but radical alterations that erased the very essence of what made these performers beloved. Their laugh lines, their animated expressions, the subtle character etched by time that told the story of a life fully lived. A renowned Beverly Hills surgeon who treated aging legends from the 1960s to the 1990s recalled heartbreaking consultations where stars arrived clutching yellowed publicity photos from decades earlier, pleading, "Make me look like this again." Such impossible requests, born from Hollywood's cruel contradiction, an industry that worships youth while thriving on nostalgia, launched countless surgical disasters. Early procedures were experimental at best, brutal at worst, stretching skin like canvas without regard for underlying anatomy, natural movement, or long-term consequences. These pioneers became unwitting guinea pigs, their faces pioneering not just beauty standards, but cautionary tales of what happens when one refuses to accept the inevitable. The tragedy began with Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart and a foundational figure in cinema history. As co-founder of United Artists and the first actor to command a $1 million contract, her golden curls and extraordinarily expressive face defined silent era stardom. Audiences fell in love with movies through her emotive performances, yet she became one of Hollywood's earliest plastic surgery casualties. In the 1930s, as she approached her 40s and struggled with transitioning away from ingenue roles, Pickford underwent primitive facelifts that pulled skin brutally tight, excising excess without understanding facial muscles or natural aging patterns. What started as one procedure snowballed into decades of revisions, each compounding the damage. By the 1940s, her once vibrant features had frozen into a mannequin-like immobility. The subtle expressions that conveyed volumes on silent screens were lost forever. Friends noted an unnatural smoothness and tightness that robbed her of natural smiles. Cinematographers who worked with her later described America's sweetheart turned mannequin, a poignant irony that accelerated her withdrawal from public life. As techniques marginally improved, Pickford chased corrections, hoping to undo prior harm, only to stretch her face further from authenticity. By the 1960s, she had become profoundly reclusive, rarely photographed. When she did appear, the altered hairline, taut skin, and inability to emote shocked observers. Douglas Fairbanks Jr., a childhood friend, reportedly failed to recognize her at a 1960s event, later confiding that she resembled a poorly crafted statue of herself. In 1976, accepting an honorary Oscar, she sent a pre-recorded video, carefully lit and angled to conceal the extent of the alterations. Pickford, who helped build Hollywood, ultimately fell victim to its destructive demand that natural aging be erased rather than embraced. This pattern of self-erasure extended across eras, perhaps most publicly with Joan Rivers, whose surgical journey blurred the line between maintenance and addiction. Though not a strict Golden Age figure, Rivers began her career alongside studio system legends and transformed herself through hundreds of procedures, turning plastic surgery into both career fuel and punchline. Starting with conventional eye and facelifts, she escalated to an exhaustive list: multiple facelifts, neck lifts, brow lifts, cheek implants, chin reductions, Botox, fillers, and endless tune-ups. Friends joked she carried medical records in a suitcase, not for doctors, but because she lost track of her own renovations. Rivers weaponized her alterations with brutal honesty. "I've had so much plastic surgery. When I die, they'll donate my body to Tupperware," making them central to her comedy. This self-deprecation shielded her professionally, keeping her relevant until her death at 81, but the physical toll was undeniable. Her once sharp, expressive face became stiff and artificial, generating headlines that overshadowed her pioneering wit. Late-night hosts who once feared her tongue now mocked her taut skin. A makeup artist who worked with her lamented not the changes themselves, but the reason. In this business, wrinkles aren't character. They're unemployment. Rivers embodied the industry's pressure, her frozen features a testament to survival at any cost. No case illustrates surgical excess more extremely than Jocelyn Wildenstein, a socialite whose transformation served as a dire warning to Hollywood stars. Though not an actress, her story resonated deeply in celebrity circles. Reportedly motivated by her billionaire ex-husband's affinity for big cats, Wildenstein pursued feline-inspired features. Slanted eyes, high cheekbones, flattened nose through endless facelifts, eye surgeries, implants, and fillers. Spending millions, she mutated into something inhuman. As one surgeon put it, crossing from enhancement into psychological territory. Her face became cultural shorthand for disaster, referenced in horror films and medical texts. Beverly Hills dermatologists cited clients invoking her photo not as inspiration, but as a plea. Don't let me end up like that. Wildenstein's disconnect, believing she looked beautiful while horrifying others, highlighted the distorted self-perception that can accompany addiction, a path many aging stars narrowly avoided yet flirted with dangerously. Zsa Gabor, the epitome of old Hollywood glamour, took a similar lifelong commitment to artificial preservation. Famous for 9 marriages, sharp wit, and extraordinary beauty, she began facelifts in her 30s during the 1950s and never stopped. By the 1970s, telltale signs emerged: perpetually surprised eyes, tight mouth, vanishing animation. Her vivacious persona, built on expressive storytelling, required compensation: elaborate wigs, massive jewelry, flamboyant outfits, to distract from facial immobility. Directors adapted shots to rely on voice and gestures rather than close-ups. Gabor remained defiantly public into her 80s, creating a thorough visual record of progressive alteration. A cultural historian noted she embodied Hollywood's myth that a woman's value ties inexorably to youth, making her both victim and perpetrator. In later years, after health declines, her final images showed a face bearing little resemblance to the captivating beauty of her prime. Male stars were not immune, as Tony Curtis's transformation painfully demonstrated. The sensual 1950s heartthrob, with dark curls and sensitive features that shone in films like Some Like It Hot, underwent changes noticeable in his 60s. Minor work escalated into dramatic tightness, shiny stretched skin, and flattened dimensionality. Results exacerbated by applying female-oriented techniques to thicker male anatomy. By the 1990s, his face resembled a waxy, surprised approximation of youth, contrasting sharply with his late-career expressive painting. Interviewers noted his apparent delusion, as if he still saw his young self in the mirror. Friends mourned that Curtis, who would have aged handsomely naturally, became distracted by an unnecessary mask. Linda Evans, bridging eras with her radiant dynasty role, destroyed one of Hollywood's most naturally graceful beauties. Her delicate 1960s features promised elegant aging, yet post-dynasty interventions, overfilled cheeks, augmented lips, stretched contours, replaced authenticity with artificiality. Retreating to a spiritual life emphasizing natural cycles, her face contradicted her philosophy, speaking of deep regret and misplaced trust. Photographers lamented she needed no help yet erased herself completely. Priscilla Presley's tragedy stemmed not from excess, but fraud. Seeking minor refinements, she fell victim to an unlicensed practitioner injecting industrial-grade silicone in 2003. The migrating, hardening substance distorted her elegant cheekbones and smile irreversibly. Though the perpetrator was jailed, Presley's courage in remaining public highlighted vulnerability in discreet celebrity circles. Carol Baker, the provocative baby doll star with distinctive full lips and expressive eyes, later standardized those trademarks into generic tightness, erasing what set her apart at a time when others paid to emulate her natural assets. Anne Margaret, the explosive performer whose mobile face ignited screens alongside Elvis, saw vitality trapped behind increasing immobility from lifts and Botox. Directors shifted to body shots to capture her enduring energy, as close-ups only emphasize the loss. These 9 lives, Mary Pickford, Joan Rivers, Jocelyn Wildenstein, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Tony Curtis, Linda Evans, Priscilla Presley, Carol Baker, and Anne Margaret, reveal a shared heartbreak. In chasing eternal youth, they sacrificed expressiveness, history, and uniqueness to an industry that demanded perfection while nostalgia pulled the other way. Early crude surgeries scarred pioneers. Later addictions and frauds claimed others. The greatest sorrow lies in the alternatives. How magnificently these faces might have aged, their lines mapping rich careers and lives. Instead, they stand as timeless reminders that true stardom endures not in frozen youth, but in authentic evolution. Hollywood's greatest icons didn't just age, they were pressured to deny it, often at the cost of the very magic that made them eternal.